Hello again. I hadn't intended on posting again, but anyway, there's some weird, bizarre stuff going on, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I was kind of playing with it. I don't usually bring this kind of thing to the forefront, but I noticed, and I'm not sure remember if I mentioned it to somebody yesterday, that what's weird, like Ika's been like watching me. So it's summer here and we have ticks. I hate ticks. And so I wear riding boots and summer clothes, tight jeans and all that kind of stuff. And because I just like my jeans to fit. I can't stand baggy clothes, drives me nuts. So that usually gets Ika's attention because he's a Randy Pleiadian. But this is different. This isn't that. Well, there is that. I will put that in there. Anytime he sees a woman, it's a different. Anyway, there's that. But there's like he's like watching, that's kind of like I feel like I'm being watched. And I noticed that a few days ago. I didn't like notice because he usually just kind of hangs around and looks in. Same thing I do to him. And it's just kind of like not one of those like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? There's that, right? But this is like watch, like I feel like he's taken on that role to monitor me. So I feel him like so there's that sneaky aspect to it where it's kind of like I'm just going to keep an eye on you kind of thing. That's what it was feeling like the past couple of days. So that's weird. Well, it's not, well, I think this whole thing, what you can't say I don't think weird in what we're going through. It's the whole fucking thing. So what I want to do is pull up one video, see if I can just sort of get this to work. Because this popped last night and I shared it with Andy. I'm like, what the fungal is this? I'm gonna start speaking in Italian swears actually at this point, but there it is, content share. All right. What's up here? This is third phase of the moon. Frank got me watching that channel a little bit. They do have some good footage and that's nice that they're sharing anything. So the White House, whatever, posted a really weird like trailer. That's what it looks like to me. I saw it on Dabu 7 last night. And I said, what the hell? You watch this shit because you're like, what the hell is this? Um, and then they like I don't watch any government shit. And then they put that thing up today about the illegal aliens on aliens.gov. Which I think a lot of us had assumed it was that, this idea of the aliens.gov. Yeah, it's going to be about illegal aliens, right? So and then I guess I don't know if this is, so I don't know what the hell they're doing. This is just, to me, extremely unprofessional. It just shocks me that a government, right? A government is officially putting out like a movie trailer. And I find that offensive on so many levels. This cryptic, like Spielberg style, or sci-fi short, So if you haven't seen it, and again, for new viewers, apologize for not doing full screen, but if I do full screen on my Zoom, the whole thing freezes, so we don't want that. Sometimes it just freezes anyway. So, but anyway, let's see this bullshit here. Let me turn this up. Turn it on.
Brothers Blake and Brent, and we've got the latest coming in from the White House. Trump has dropped cryptic messages. Apparently, something big is going to be dropping tonight. We're going to be covering it all in this episode.
This is literally it. I mean, this is the shit they're putting. I mean, I didn't believe it at first. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is just some kind of silly. It is officially put out by the government. I mean, this is, I don't know.
Trump said this earlier.
Like we're releasing a lot of information having to do with terrestrial.
Now, I mean, okay. Yeah, the guy stumbling over words and everything. This is, well, we don't know who it is, number one. So I suspect these two individuals, and you know who they are, right? Flanking him. Look at the way they're looking at him. He's this kind of shriveled up old dude in the middle. And you got these, almost security looking, that they're not, but I mean, they might be. Actually, you know what? I think I might have. Wait a minute. Are these the people that we think they are sitting on his right and left? Maybe not. That just came to me. Now I just take that as a grain of salt, but it just they don't like look at their bodies. They seem kind of built, you know what I mean? It's kind of like they feel like they're official government security. So he's stumbling over words. He looks like this, and he looks little, doesn't he? In the middle, he's like, because he's not a little guy, right? The president is not a, but he looks little there. And he's hunched over. But these two on either side, of course, all of the, you may want to look into this because nothing these people do is an accident. So the hat, what does that mean? All these different things. These all have symbolic. You look at the background, everything's so perfect, right? That's all, like I said, that everything these guys do is on purpose. The tie colors, what kind of labels they're wearing, any kind of um jewelry, watches or what have it. This is all on purpose. So, and I don't say that because it's like, oh, that's a conspiracy. No, these anything in the military and the government is all, they're the total, who's the assholes in the room? Well, there you go. So one of the things that Andy had mentioned it, and I'm like, yeah, I was thinking kind of the same thing. Did the white hats, whatever. I hate to use the word white hats, but this goes back to Bill Tompkins. He talks about white hats and black hats, and that, you can use that term outside as a symbolic reference to trying to categorize, now I'm sounding like Trump, categorize benevolent versus, nefarious groups. So Tompkins did describe white hats and black hats. So did the good guys somehow seize some more power? And I was thinking that, and I said, after Andy had mentioned it, I'm like, yeah, that's been rolling around in my head. Now I'm not saying that's the case, and neither of us are. I'm sure Andy isn't saying that either. I'll leave him speak for himself, and I know Andy, and I know he wouldn't like throw out bullshit. I always told him, I said, if I ever start throwing out bullshit, just come and tackle me, right? And he's like, yeah, same. It's like, holy shit, right? But if that's the case, it's just for shits and giggles, as I always say, then we have nothing to worry about. Just wait for your next mission information, right? But if they're not, and that's why I focus, like, oh, you're so negative. It's like, I'm not negative. I'm just looking at all the different, I'm a Libra, so I'm gonna look at all the different aspects. So for me, if the white hats are involved, if the happy ETs are all helping us, I don't have a problem, right? So I don't even worry about that. I'm not even looking at that. That's not an issue. What I do have as an issue is that, okay, well, let's just, again, for shits and giggles, say the good guys aren't in control and the bad guys are still playing footsie, right? Okay, so now this is where we need to focus our attention. If the bad guys are still playing footsie and they're still in the chess game, then we need to be very aware of what's going on, in my opinion. Everybody's their own, I let everybody make their own decision, but in a war scenario, and I think this is where it can be incredibly dangerous for individuals, not for collectives, because there's going to be a lot of us who have our feet on the ground and our heads on the ground and are thinking in a tactical way. So it's not so much an issue for us, although the danger is very real in any battle scenario. You are not safe in a battle scenario and you need to be aware. Okay. If the bad guys are still playing footsie, then we need to decode a lot of shit that's coming our way and not take anything at face value, understanding that this is an extra, because you are an extraterrestrial on a planet floating in a galaxy, and this is an extraterrestrial war. And the technology is it's just mind-numbing. Not that the technology itself is hard to understand, because it isn't. It's very easy to understand. It's just that the capability for destruction and extreme danger that this technology can unleash on us, particularly the psionic weapons, the psychotronic capabilities that they have. And these are in patents. They're not some woo-woo sci-fi thing. It's legit, it's real. Most of you have already been an experiencer of this lovely, technology. So it's real. But this is weird. And it looks to me, especially the guy on the right there like I said, I don't think are these really the people? I don't know. Anyway, so the dude on the right, right? with the purple tie. He looks very he looks very they both turn in to look at the president, and yeah, they can be, but they're almost, to me, this is almost like they're guarding and watching. And the guy there with the furrowed brow, that's a concerned look. So you look at facial structure and all that, what kind of what are their features saying, So he looks kind of like, he has that kind of uh yeah.
things, and people are totally fascinated by it. It's amazing. I wasn't sure if they would enjoy it. It's literally trending number one. Can you believe it? So,
Just the, I mean, just the, oh, I didn't know. No, you guys love your aliens. And like, since when is the government an entertainment depot? It's, he's not saying this is so ungovernment. And I know Trump isn't not your typical politician, but these people don't just step out. And this is the key point. These people don't just step out and say stuff. Everything they say is crafted by script writers. That's common knowledge. So that's scripted and it's weird. It's just weird that the wording, we saw this in 2023 because I used to teach this. I taught disclosure at university for a couple of years. In 2023, that was, people got to remember 2023, like 3 years ago, when Brazil, and they had the congressional hearings with the Three Musketeers who came on with the little tic tacs and all that shit, and it was a big joke. But Brazil released its archives in 2023. It opened up the doors, and you couldn't even get in. It was you have to normally in government archives you can just go and look up stuff, right? But they had gotten so much interest in Brazil that they had to, start giving people numbers. And it was like almost years out. It was the number, it was just unimaginable. The number of people who were asking to see the archives, the Brazilian archives. So that was wild. And I guess, it's not a surprise. It is not a surprise that when the United States, who is not Brazil, because the United States has all the shit, opened up some more archives, that the interest would be off the charts. And you get over 1 billion people that are curious about this stuff because, it's the technology. I mean, yes, people are curious about extraterrestrials, I mean, we have a club where we want our Nordics, that's for sure. Um, I want to be, it's not the only thing I want. I want to be with my husband. He wants to be with me. The pain is intense. And for those of you who have ET family, which many of you, obviously, if you're watching this, you're on this podcast, right? You're here because this is your group, right? We're all in this together because we have family who are visitors. And of course, we are in costume and we're visitors, but we want to be with them. We want to see this planet, as we want to see other planets who are under duress liberated, if that's possible. So yeah, this is just weird. Hey, yeah, you guys, like, dude, you guys like your aliens, so we gave you what you liked. You like that? Was that good? Gonna get some more aliens for you. This is so unprofessional. I mean, it's just like I don't understand this.
The number one topic, UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrials, it's all what everybody wants to know. Are we alone? In our opinion, of course we're not. There's a big cover up, but maybe there's something about to break. This cryptic message coming in from the White House. Watch this.
Clean, healthy coffee,
Yeah.
rich in antioxidants, lab tested for mold, mycotoxins.
Okay, what is going on? What's up with these cryptic messages? We see a shadow. Is it an extraterrestrial walking across a sand dunescape? It's hard to tell, but it has this high production value, almost like Day of Disclosure or Spielberg movie. It's kind of crazy, but listen, is there something subliminal here? Right. We hear some kind of whispering, some kind of subliminal messages. It's hard to make out. Do you hear any words in there? Somebody says they're here or they're coming. Brent, what's your thoughts? I don't know. Yeah, if anybody knows what's going on, what they're saying in this message, leave it in the comments. Now listen up. Let's hear it again. It almost sounds like, who are they? I'm not sure. Guys, leave your comments. Like I said, a lot of cryptic messages coming in from the White House today. Very strange times indeed. Here's another one. All right. I don't.
Let's go back to this image here. So, well, that looks like a border wall, just like you can see the background, right? So the first one, it's a weird looking shadow, but that is that in one of the immigrants on, trying to cross the border. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it up to you to try to decipher. If you have anybody has any kind of equipment to decipher like video sound, then I'm not quite sure what that says. And I, those of us who used to be ghost hunters, there's a lot of, it's like an EVP, how do you, your brain puts words in there that may not be there. Like pareidolia, is it or isn't it, right? Is it a cloud? Is it a ship? Well, you got to have hard evidence, in my opinion. That's just how I operate. But it's weird. I mean, it does sound like who are they? But that could also be who are they? The immigrants crossing the border. Who are they? Hey, buddy, right? That kind of thing here, because they're definitely playing on aliens for sure. Illegal aliens. And then here you got an illegal alien, right, being taken over the border back home. So, but this is curious because can they do this? Yeah, well, they sure can. Could they use teleportation to move aliens over? Yeah. Is this some kind of reveal of the technology that we have, which we all know we have? And they're round wing ships like this, like they call them, the old round wings. And then they also have the TR-3Bs and some different shaped. They have a lot. They have boomerang ships. The government has quite a few. They have the cigar types. The government has got this shit. So this is a curiosity. I'm not quite sure what, like I said, it's crude to. Now I don't understand tribalism and thinking of the beings on this planet, but that's me, because the reality is the beings on this planet are very tribal. And it's unfortunate that there are areas on this planet where people are suffering. Well, they're suffering everywhere, but there are areas where they're suffering in a greater degree. Now, it's not realistic to, I can't say the word allow, it's the wrong word, but to shelve everybody. There's limitations about land mass and resources. So obviously, right, you can't if you have 2 acres of land, putting 10 horses on 2 acres is too many horses on that 2 acres of land, right? That's just reality. What you have here is a distinct distortion and dysfunctional capacity that we see in extreme distress, that we see in certain areas. And a lot of that, and to be fair, that distress was caused on purpose. So the main issue would be to ameliorate distress so that people don't have to flee as refugees. No, I mean, I can't imagine anybody really wanting to flee as a refugee. That's a high stress situation to be in. That's different from saying, hey, you know what? I'm curious. I think I'd like to go live in India for a while. That's not, that's a decision. That's a sovereign decision where, I like the culture. I'm curious. I'd like to move there. But the people who are refugees, and I'm not saying they should or shouldn't do what they're doing, but they're in a distressed situation. Like I said, this planet's so fucked up. It's just, I mean, why are distressed, dysfunctional, extreme, I mean, the whole planet's distressed, just as a fuck show. But I mean, like, why are extreme stress areas there? because that's what they want, right? Anyway, that's offensive on many levels I mean, we're seeing complete dehumanization of these beings, refugees, right? And we know what they're doing with a lot of them. And this is being shown here because a lot of the children are experiencing this phenomena for sure and being taken off planet. So they're using these electrogravitic propulsion craft to abduct people. And they are using these electrogravitic propulsion craft to sell these people, refugees. They're called disposable people no one will miss. So people living in extreme poverty. You've also seen them test shit on people who are indigenous living in remote areas. And I can imagine what they've done in some of those areas with those people because they have no recourse. This is basically this is what they look for. And this is what I always tell people. If you fight back, they're going to look for the low-hanging fruit. So fighting back is really our only way to get away from this. So children obviously can't really fight back. They're children, right? They're vulnerable. So what these people do is they focus on people who are disadvantaged, severely disadvantaged, in Asia, wherever. Mexico and Central America, and they come and get them and they ship them off. They harvest the cattle, let's just say. So are they showing that as well? Okay. Two ways of looking at that. If it's black hat, this is unimaginably horrific and offensive. If you can not have any empathy whatsoever for, say, a 3-year-old child from Mexico or Central America and consider them some kind of vile alien creature, I don't have any words for you. I really don't. I think you need to soul search. That's all I'm going to say. Any creature, human, animal, where extreme suffering is going to be placed upon them. That's something I've never understood on this planet. But anyway, it's not my planet, so you guys do you, whatever. Or is it white hat? In which case, they'd be revealing what I just revealed to you. So who knows? Who knows?
All right. I don't know what is going on with the White House. We just saw what it looks to be a flying saucer lifting over a person over some kind of gate, or maybe the border. I'm not exactly sure, guys.
Oh,
This is strange stuff.
all right, next one. This is, like I'm saying, this is freaking garbage.
Right, pretty high production coming in from the White House. Crop circles with states loading. So apparently, the White House and aliens.gov, the Department of War, they're going to be dropping something big, and they're loading it up as we speak. Apparently, it's going to be dropping tonight. So
this guy is extrapolating. We don't know what they're going to drop. I mean, what does this mean? This guy's pulling shit out of the air. This is what pisses me off about so many people. It's like, you don't have the evidence to what the hell this is. So it looks like a helicopter. I mean, it looks like, that's what you say, right? It looks like, they haven't dropped really a whole bunch of much shit yet. It's been very disappointing. And like I said, the real deal is, where is the tech you're hiding? So a helicopter flying over this crop circle loading. What does that mean? We don't know. It's about time that, and I think this comes from the fear response that's been drilled into people, but the answer to a lot of what you're saying is we don't know. We don't know. So this is like, I can't imagine any government. It's just my brain left the building here. Any government putting this kind of weird ass, like, sci-fi, I don't.
be standing by all day today, seeing what transpires. But what's up with the crop circle and this loading image? Let's watch it one more time, coming in from the White House. Right, coming in.
Yeah, there you go. Weird. Let me get rid of this. All right. Ta-da. Okay. So unprofessional and shocking. So the good guy, bad guy story, when you go back to Bill Tompkins, which I have here is Bill Tompkins. And again, for me, we're trusting Bill Tompkins. So he's shown this is how you get that groove when you're from going like this. My whole life has been like this. What the fuck? So that's how you get that groove there. So that's how you get um so Frank knew Bill personally. So that's the best, we were dealing with the best we got, right? And that's why it's so important for all of us to discuss and talk and be, and that's what, if people are not discussing openly and together the information, then that's a red flag to me. And what are you hiding? So Bill was with Cliff. I asked Frank about Cliff. I said, do you think Cliff was a visitor? And he said, no, I don't know. So one of the things that Bill would mention is how handsome Cliff was. So I'm just kind of like, you sure Cliff wasn't? Anyway, so this is 1960, and Bill says, it was 6 a.m. I had taken the North Road from my futuristic home, viewing the San Fernando Valley this morning. So I was driving my new Cadillac through the Santa Monica Mountains. Santa Monica, that's where there's a base, right off the shit, right? There's a base there. Went to the beach. So turning south on the Pacific Coast Highway, on my right was the expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Shimmering and sparkling like radiant silver in the early morning sun, my whole body came alive. Oh yeah, we know that feeling. So, pushing the envelope all day and into the night, it was happening. The time now was midnight. Leaning way back in his chair, putting his feet up on another chair, Cliff Nolan never does that. He was my number one in charge of the Apollo when I am out of the plant. Like me, these are the think tanks. Like me, only 17 when he enlisted in the Navy. Learned to fly, was going to make it a career. Only served one hitch, and he got his sheepskin in double E, whatever that means. I don't know the shit. Now I am fairly good looking, but Cliff is marvelously handsome. Walking tall, nearly 6 feet. He can stop any girl in her tracks, and Cliff really is a nice guy. I'm like, Bill, you sure? Anyway, okay. Stretching his arms, rubbing his hands through his dark wavy hair, closing his eyes, he said, I'll bet you're tired too. Yeah, I'm beat. Okay, Cliff, this is not something that will go away. I don't want her to leave either. I sense his uneasiness of my secretary. This is about Jessica, the very attractive extraterrestrial female. So they would move the secretaries here and there, and they realized that a lot of these secretaries were likely, visitors. So, because they would do shit. I mean, it wasn't just like they were hot babes. It was like they were telepathic and all this kind of stuff. Holy cats, Bill. She is unbelievable. And the two of them being here. I know what you're thinking, Cliff. What does this really mean? And again, you can't tell. You say, well, Cliff sounds like a guy here. He doesn't sound like an ET guy. It's like, yeah, but they're going to play a role. So let's go over it again and then try to understand how their presence here is beneficial to them. To them. I'm almost certain that this exquisite thing, my secretary Jessica, really is an alien. Think about it. Her phenomenal understanding of deep space mission operations. Her verbal suggestions, so she would compel them. She was also telepathically stuffing my brain with concepts that challenge almost everything in NASA's contracts. All of this imposes limitations that prevent us from accomplishing the missions. Folding his arms behind his head, yeah, you're right on there, Bill. I added, then without my knowing it's her, she slips ideas in my head that would piss off everyone at NASA's headquarters. I mean, with simple suggestions that accomplish the function of the mission. I think the two of them, Jessica and Christy, operate here in pairs, like a buddy system. What they do. So actually what was happening here was because NASA is, so there's in these think tank tech, also military government systems, they're two different factions. In fact, well, many different factions, but we'll just break it down to two. There's the benevolent extraterrestrials, and then there's the regressive extraterrestrials, nefarious extraterrestrials. The nefarious extraterrestrials don't want us space faring. They don't want us. They didn't want that. The nefarious were the ones who were bullshitting NASA and creating technology that wouldn't work for NASA. And then on the other side, there's the benevolent that were trying to get the technology to work. So just like in the Battle of Los Angeles, those were benevolent ETs, and they dropped down scouts for the military to pick up. So that is the technology that was being like, hey, dude, reverse engineer. So there's a battle ever since the Nazis, because the Nazis were given the technology by the regressives. So there's a battle behind the scenes on the planet where you have benevolence, as you're seeing here with Bill saying they're putting shit in my head. And I'll see that with Dave Rossi, putting shit in your head. Tesla, putting shit in your head. Do this, do this, do this. Then you have the regressives that are doing the same thing. So you have the benevolence saying, you fucking idiots have to you got to figure this shit out. You got to fight this shit. Then you got the regressives saying, no, we don't want these. We want these cattle where they belong in the fields. So you have, this is the war. So Cliff nodded. Bill, that other star girl, Christy Pearson, in propulsion. I have been trying to get in her pants for 2 years. I'm surprised. And yes, I am, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't be a starman. Those guys are, let me tell you, those guys are, wow. And yes, I am nearly convinced that they are instructed to, as you say, operate in pairs. Just like when we talk, she repeats every word in my head before I even get a chance to say it. Kind of fun, though. And that's how telepathy is. It's thought transfer. So you think something and you speak, but in telepathy, you don't speak it. You just think it and it's there. So the way you think something, so like when say you just went to a great restaurant the night before and you're telling your friends about it, like, oh, this restaurant was awesome. Yeah, super cool. In your head, you're replaying the meal, you're replaying the ambiance of the restaurant, you're replaying the whole experience. So when you say it, yeah, the food was really good, the salad was great, blah, blah, you're just saying those words, very, very limited. That's why language is so limited transfer of intel. But in your head is the full experience, the taste of the food. So when you telepath, the other person gets all that. They get you driving to the restaurant in a hit. This isn't very slow. This is like boom. You get driving to the restaurant, you get the taste of the food, you reading the menu. I mean, you get the whole experience of a telepath. And that's what Bill is saying. Oh, this is kind of fun. It is fun. So, and when they're right next to you, it's just, there's no like, I feel like there's a little bit of a lag, and I don't know if that has to do with, I think that has to do. So when I telepath with Ika, when he's away, when he's in California, even though it's a quantum entangle, I'm like, why is that so difficult? Because when he was next to me, it was like just easy. Just like I had a conversation with anybody. So I suspect there may be some jumbling of frequencies. That's actually, there's some kind of tech that they have here that's like creating a glitch so that telepathy is a little glitchy. I don't know. But anyway, that's just my experience anyway. So Cliff said, yeah, after work one night, I was alone in the blueprint files. Wait a minute, Cliff, that's locked up after 10. Yeah, I found the gate over the blueprint request counter that pulls down was still up, so I climbed up over the counter to get in. Cliff said, I was walking around in there looking for a specification, and she walks up behind me, just like Jessica in one of those blue cocktail minis. Clips my arm, leads me to a different part of the files. Walks right up to a file cabinet, opens it, and with her dainty little fingers, slips out the file that I needed. She just knows, right? Yeah. And with that naughty little smile and shining big blue eyes, she makes a sharp 180. The mini flips up and she trots out to the counter. Hold it. Stop right there. Now you're going to describe her exit right out over the counter, right? So this is really important to our understanding of why the aliens are here. Well, okay, Cliff, get to it. Well, this is a little difficult in her 4-inch heels. I am right behind her in case she needs help. Up goes one leg, looking back at me with a big smile, and she hesitates and telepathically said, I love this. Are you having fun too? This is so that. This is the thing. And for those, I speak preaching to the choir. these other people who are meeting the ETs and they're like, oh, they're glowing and they're like an angel and they bestowed wisdom upon me and they're very stiff and like they're not like that. They're silly, they're funny, they're hee hee, they're like giggly and they're just completely fluff. I mean, they're just so childlike. They have the real ones have this childishness, the childlike, and she's flirty and and that's what they're like. And is a cute, this is one of the episodes that Frank told me once about one of these guys that was working with Bill and he was driving along and he felt compelled, and I'll get to that section. I've actually found the section. And he was driving along and he felt compelled. Take her right, take her right. He's like, oh, I'm gonna do this. So he does, he goes up, ends up on this dirt road in the middle of nowhere. And while he's following this lead, he hears, we have coffee. And then he's to this clearing in the middle of nowhere, and there's a ship, and the real Nordics are there. And they're like, hey. And they're like, we got coffee and we got candy too, and and he went on, they had a good time. That's a real contact experience with benevolent Nordics, as opposed to these other weird, that's a red flag. If you're talking to extraterrestrials and they're kind of odd, because I've actually met Andromedans and Arcturians and they're just really soft. I mean, they're not like a Pleiadian or it's like complete dits. They're nice, so they're very quiet, they're very sweet, they're very innocent. It's a really soft kind of experience. Anyway, that's my take. So I busted out, Bill busted out. Yo, yeah, you have the most adorable little bottom I have ever seen. After the view, she swung her leg over and hopped down. Bill, he said, this is Cliff. Bill, you wouldn't believe her apartment. Well, hey, back to Jessica, I said. Then there is this other part in the morning when we meet in my office. She may not say a word. Seldom good morning. Her eyes open wide, flash, pupils expand. I swear they change, and she is inside me. Even though the program is in a crisis situation, whenever possible, she always manages to walk close, and come up to him and somehow touch my hand when passing documents so that they can transfer through touch. So you gotta be careful, like things. So again, of the benevolent is fine, but we do transfer information through touch. I get a lot of information through touch. That's why I don't like people touching me. It is just, I love animals touching me because they're so, but I get like a whole like download if anybody touches me. I used to hate, the idea of like shaking hands and everything for me is like, Linda found this, we found the cute meme, like, it's just supposedly a book of how to not touch me. Touch is huge. Again, for the hell and for many other ET races. So you can transfer information through touch. So don't touch. Don't touch. So she bends over, facing away from me, looking back with a smile. She really makes a lasting impression. Under other conditions, things might be different. I just can't give in to her charm. Sometimes I still get the feeling that she is an informer of some type. Well, yeah, we know. She was a good guy, though. Jessica's a good person. Yeah. Well, do you sense that with Christy, Cliff? Yeah, directed by someone trying to get control of your ability to understand the big picture or to foresee ahead in the program. What was not going to work? Yeah, be careful. Your thoughts are showing and conceive the one and only system approach that would provide a successful mission. Getting bothered, I said, do you think it's possible that these two Stargirls are controlling our minds? Could they be here under orders from out in the galaxies with a mission to assist us in developing a naval deep water space battle group capability to help them out there? Holy cats, Bill. Do you know what you just said? Listen to yourself. Where did that come from? Have we, you and I, encountered these strikingly attractive, almost always scantily clad females? They know. They just all on purpose. All that sexiness was all on purpose. It was all a game. Because they knew. That was a psyop. That's a psyop. Who we received psychic information from to make this mission to the moon and Mars a success. There you go. I mean, we are selected for this. Bill, slow down. You're way out there now. Cliff, I'm nearly convinced that these sexy females are not just monitoring us. They are commissioned to see that it happens. They're on mission. Wow, Bill. Yeah, you could be right. I'm also very concerned that we are being watched by others, and I don't mean our twin Stargirls. Not just a normal check on the program, but a very sinister intrusion into our thought processes. Reptilians come to mind. That's wild too, Cliff. Cliff added, we haven't solved our problem with aliens on the program, even who was wearing the white hats. I said, and more important, who was wearing the black hats. But we have enlightened ourselves a little looking through a bigger window. Well, there you go. I mean, that's the whole you know, deal that we got here. So let's see. I'm gonna pull up Ashton Forbes. Ashton is talking about McCasland again. So I tried to remote view a little bit of that last night, but it's a mix. So they mess with your remote view, but the remote view I got last night lines up exactly with what Ashton is going to say today. So, and also what Sile says. So.
Been thinking about this a lot, basically every single day. I think we know something that nobody knows. I think the reason why those MH370 videos were exposed by a healthcare IT guy and not someone from the government is because even people in the government have no idea we have that technology. And this makes a lot of sense. I'm going to be very vague about this. I've had conversations with very, very connected, wealthy people, connected people, what have you. And they truthfully don't believe, just like Elon Musk, they truthfully don't believe that we could have ever built any of this technology. It's just they don't think it's even possible. They think like there's no way, there's no system they can imagine that technology could even exist.
Oh, commercial.
This is what happens to your brain after 6 months
Oh my God.
on stimulants.
Oh.
Month 1, everything works perfectly. Your dopamine.
So in their minds, they don't think this is possible. And that's why I think that what we found here is something that truthfully, like nobody really even knows about. Nobody even knows, except for a very small select number of people like the missing general. And generally those people, when they get too much heat on them, when people know about them, they're going to disappear. Maybe there's a system for that, for making those people disappear. Because you can imagine.
Yeah, that's what I saw. They were telling, that's what I got last night, that he knew exactly, it was all coordinated because he's no idiot. Let's face it, general, you know, and he's already been briefed on this stuff. He's already been briefed on scenarios like this. So this is, you know, it's a different thing though when you're briefed on like trauma scenarios and how to handle that, and then when it actually occurs. So I think he was definitely V2K, and he knew he was V2K because he knew he was going to be that they would be talking, that the voices in his head, whatever, were them, you know, the people who were going to like, you know, help him when this situation occurred. So, like I said, he's not stupid. He knows how to keep composed, but you know, it's hard to be composed in these situations. So leaving the cell phone and grabbing his gun, they told him, grab your gun. And he was going to do it anyway, because he's not stupid. And then the coordinates where he would meet them were, you know, delivered at that moment, because it's last minute stuff. And the last thing I saw was him walking out and meeting a couple of men, and they weren't bad guys. So he's in hiding. That's what I got from the remote view that then is now echoed with Ashton.
Don't even think about it from our perspective, the public. Think about it from our adversaries' perspective. If our adversaries find out that General McCasland knows how to make, you know, high beta fusion orb technology, they will absolutely try to kidnap him or kill him. I would, if I was our adversaries. That's how the game's played. Take their most powerful pieces, steal their technology. Those are the people that know all the secret codes. Those are the people that are like, probably need to be watched more than the president. Take it to the bunkers, take it to wherever else.
The president is a figurehead. He's just nothing. The president is nothing. That's just nothing. That's more for entertainment of the public. So my take is different here from Ashton. So the general is he doesn't make this. I mean, the think tanks have this tech. So is it then white hat tech? So the general would be a high profile figurehead, just like the president, where the black hats would be using this as a fear campaign, where let's start taking out different people to create fear narratives. So taking out the general would have absolutely no impact whatsoever on the technology that's already created, that they already have. In my opinion, both the white hats and the black hats have the same tech, obviously. But no, I take exception to that. I don't think that it's not about Earth based, because the Earth is controlled as a whole. Though Ashton's not an ET guy, and I totally understand that. Yeah, he's Ashton is working on our side, number one, but it's like he doesn't get the ET shit so much, and I agree with him on that, because it's all woo woo and smoke and mirrors generally. Where are the aliens exactly? They're here, but they're undercover, as you see with many of you have probably met them, of course, but as we saw with Bill Tompkins, they have to be undercover. But yeah, this is more of a, I suspect, taking him out for his own safety rather than anything else. And also to help mitigate a lot of the spinning out of control of some, oh my God, they're after us narratives, because there's a lot of people who want to grift off that fear shit. So this kind of mitigates a lot of that.
I don't know. But somebody does know, or claims to know. This was from how long ago? A couple months ago, a month and a half ago. So not before we started talking about it. We were like the first people to start talking about this and this missing general. I knew right away when this news broke, this missing general, something was not right. Not right. And we were talking about less than like one day after he disappeared. Anyway, here we go. Listen to this take. Pretty interesting take here.
Son who's gone missing. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think about that?
There is a protocol within the legacy program that if you are one of the people they consider a key personnel, and something is happening and they think that either you're at risk or you are a risk, they will come and take you to their facilities and hide you away. Or if they think you're a threat, they will pop you and murder you. I think he is just in hiding with some friends. He's safe. He left his cell phone and everything else behind because he didn't want to be traceable. And that's good for him. And I hope he's going to stay hidden until the time when it's safe for him to come back.
I hope he's safe as well. That was what I was thinking. But I hope he's safe.
That's my feeling about it. Is just this was of his own accord, and he's safe with some friends.
And do you think it's because we're headed into war times, or do you think it's because we're headed for imminent meaning within a year NHI confirmation? Like what? Why would he be a threat?
If you knew what he knows, yeah, you would think, oh crap, they're going to come get me now. And I think that's what motivated him.
Because of confirmation?
Yeah.
Oh, here comes another commercial.
This is lipoma. This is what's under your dog's skin right now.
We started.
Bro.
Yeah, that guy, obviously hit the nail on the head there, because if they wanted to make an example of McCasland, then you'd find the body somewhere. Now, it wouldn't be obviously a murder. It might be like, oh, he went hiking. Oh, look at that. He died in the woods. Oops. The same way they washed up the CIA guy. Looks like he fell out of his boat. Oops. That's how it, oh, look at, Forrestal, he jumped out the window. It would be something like that. Where everybody in the know knows, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that, oh, yeah, okay. No, otherwise, like, hey, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you may have an accident. That's what they would do. But there would be a body, because obviously, and the fact that there's no body adds to the likelihood of it being the other, that he's in hiding.
Wow, that is
of course.
Wow.
I should also say, sometimes they'll clone a body and have a body, but you're also in hiding. But that would be a different reason where they would need to create a fake body, a faked body, And that next, they can do that too. So just because there's a body doesn't mean you're dead. No, that's
in the case of ghost murmur, how do we detect some dude's faint heartbeat miles away when there's electromagnetic signals everywhere that are just clouding that tiny, tiny electromagnetic signal? How do we do that? Well, that's what we're going to review here in just a minute. Because what I want you to realize is why is someone like General McCasland, why is this someone that's so important that he's going to suddenly disappear when we're about to reveal the UFO files? Because General McCasland knows all about this physics, chat. He knows all about it. And he's been weaponizing it. When they say that General McCasland's working in special access programs or whatever, knows about the UFO stuff, this is what we're talking about. This 5D physics and the implications of the 5D physics, that is being weaponized. That was classified because of the weaponization implication.
right. 5D physics. And that's not about, yes, everything is vibrating. Oh, it's a vibrate. Everything's vibrating. Every fucking thing is oscillation. Everything. All atoms oscillate. That's how they work. That's reality. Like, 5D is a layer of the fabric of space time. Just like 3D is a layer in the fabric. 3D is going to disappear. 3D is not fucking disappear. That's a fucking, learn some physics. It pisses me off. I'm sorry, but I have to rant. It's my channel. I'll rant. Remember, it's my party. I'll cry if I want it. It's physics. It's all science. And as Dr. Salpai said, what if they could weaponize time? They did. They weaponized. Of course they weaponized time already.
And that weaponization implication is control over quantum entanglement.
Yes.
Control over space-time itself.
Bingo.
The implications are communications, telescopes, propulsion mechanisms, energy sources. And you think about that and you go, oh, wow. This is like the equivalent, if you want to understand this, and now I just remember one of the clips I want to play. This is the equivalent of us figuring out how guns work, but then telling people, deciding we're going to hide it. We can't tell people how the guns work. It's too important that we have to hide the technology of guns and not let anybody else know about it. If we let the other people know about the gun technology, then they'll use the guns against us. This is the same exact concept with this 5D manipulation of space-time. Here's Hal Puthoff.
And you can go way beyond that. So there are all kinds of toroidal geometries, for example, where you have no EM field whatsoever, but you have strong vectored scalar fields. And since you have no Lorentz force in the absence of E and B, then how can you detect them? Well, you detect them by the fit.
So that's basically the intro to the physics there. You say, oh, you can make these systems where there's no E and B fields. There's no electric and magnetic fields. So that means if I'm trying to detect any signal, all signals are electromagnetic waves. There's nothing there. There's literally nothing there. An electromagnetic detector cannot detect it. Classic physics says there's nothing there. There's nothing to detect. Therefore, this quantum detector can't do anything. But that's not the case. These quantum detectors work only in the situation in which there's an extra dimension. That's how they work. That's their basis for existing. And this is why we're going to watch the video about Ferris Williams explaining this, explaining how this physics can be used to produce a signaling device, a communication between 2 points. Why do I care about the Poynting vector not being 0 in the 5th dimension? Why does Ashton care about that? What does that mean? That's just random physics talk. That's just mumbo jumbo. No, it's not. Because I'm saying that they're aiming that this direction. Wait, how do I do this? They're aiming it this way. But these things are only spinning vertically around the plane. How can they be shooting something that way? How can they be shooting something this way? Man, that's hard to do. How can they be shooting something that way if their pointing vector is 0 at the middle? If all the fields cancel out at the middle, how can they be shooting that? Oh, because they're encoding the vector potential is not 0 in the 5th dimension. In the 5th dimension, they are shooting a direction. This is how you do the math when you add extra dimensions. When you add extra matrices, extra connections, what you're saying is suddenly it matters. Even if the numbers add up to 0, the order of operations matters. It matters that I went right first and then I went left. It makes a difference. This is what we're saying in the 5th dimension. Even though in 4 dimensions you see a 0, in 5th dimensions is not 0. And that means now in 5th dimensions, even though you see a 0, that means there should be something else somewhere else that counteracts it. Why? Because matter is conserved in 5 dimensions.
I love this guy. I like.
If you've
He
been craving a
explains it
rich,
so well.
comforting taste of broth that reminds you of home, imagine getting all of that cozy goodness. Plus,
what does that mean? What does it mean when I say, and okay, you can start calling me Professor Forbes now, actually, by the way. If I'm going to lecture on physics, then I guess you can call me Professor Forbes. What does it mean when I say that energy and matter is conserved in 5 dimensions? That means if I take this airplane and I disappear it over here, it must reappear over here. It doesn't have to reappear at the same time. Doesn't have to reappear in the same place, but it must reappear exactly as it came out the other way. Exactly. Why? Because this must subtract from this to equal 0. 1 minus 1 must equal 0. This is what, by the way, what Terrence Howard was trying to convey to Joe Rogan, just in a very poor fashion. What we say is that we have an equilibrium, and I can bend that equilibrium, and I can get a +1 and I can get a -1. If I add them up, I get back to 0. This is energy being conserved in the 5th dimension. This doesn't mean that you can't pull energy out here. It just means there must be an opposite reaction as well. I pull energy out of this equilibrium. It can float around for a while. Eventually, that energy must go back to the source. Eventually. That's the idea of conservation. So all of a sudden, our conservation of energy is looked at in a completely different light. And this shouldn't be surprising, because what's the main law of alchemy? Nothing is ever created or destroyed. It only changes forms. If nothing is ever created or destroyed, where does anything come from? The answer is everything comes from the same source. Everything comes from the ether of energy. And everything goes back to the ether of energy. And that ether of energy is our space-time, the thing that gives us structure, that causes time to flow, that we see as distance. That is the energy structure, the matrix that we live in, the ether. That view is consistent with what we see not only on the huge scale, the cosmic scale, but also on the tiniest scales. So how do you visually represent this? This is the best visual representation that I've personally seen. Can I make this bigger? No. Space-time tells matter how to move. Matter tells space-time how to curve. John Archibald Wheeler. That's what it looks like right there. That's what it feels like, is that we're in a matrix structure, and matter in the matrix structure bends the structure itself. You see that? And yes, this effect of this bending is why you feel gravity. This is why you're feeling the gravity, why you feel the force of gravity that you feel. And this is why every planet that you're on will have a different curvature or manipulation of space-time magnitude. So you will feel a different flow of time depending on how much your planet pulls on space-time like this. So when you think about the aliens, I'm telling you something that nobody ever says. Why do I know that? Because I consume the content and nobody says this dope shit that I'm saying. Ready for this? The aliens aren't even going to flow at the same rate of time as us. Now you can see this image here and you can imagine that this is us floating around on the earth. And we're floating, and this is our normal rate of time. Now imagine a ball that's 100 times the size or 1,000 times the size of that earth. It's going to be pulling on space-time way more. Assuming it's more dense, at least, but let's just simplify the thing for now. If it's pulling way more, you're going to have a slower rate of time than us out here. Our time is going to be flowing faster. So why is this important? This means that when we think about aliens relative to us, it needs to be relative to our evolution. Our evolution is flowing around on our Earth over here. Other aliens are flowing around and their time is flowing at different rates compared to our time. This is probably rare for aliens to be experiencing time at the same rate. So even if we were able to make a Stargate that connected 2 points, that made these 2 points connected, the problem would be that when you look through that Stargate, time would be flowing at a different rate. Suddenly, right at the bridge, time is flowing normal, but when you look through that Stargate on the other side, they're either moving at super speed or they're moving at slow-mo. Now, that would be extremely disorienting.
Yes. Oh, Ashton. Like it's so good.
To jump through that. And imagine you jump through the portal and you look back and time is just flying by. And you have your girlfriend on the other side and you're going, oh shit, is she cheating on me? She goes, shit, I just spent a day on this planet and it's been 3 months back on Earth. Nah, shit, I got to run back and see if my girlfriend was cheating on me. Or now you go back on that other planet, you come back and you're really young and everybody's dead. So when you start talking about aliens, start realizing that we got to start thinking about how the laws of physics work here. Because it's going to start getting really weird.
Yeah.
And if we're going to beat these aliens, which we are.
There you go. That was so cool. Thank you, Ashton. That's how it works. Yeah. So a lot of you are here from the future. And the now that you want to go back to is in the future, and you'll go back to the future. So this is, I guess, some of the things people were talking about, how the beings on this. I think that most people will be fine. If you're not, well, yeah, that's your choice. You know, you can either educate yourself, you can either expand your mind, or you can live in a little tiny, you know, like a ship in a bottle, and that's your choice. I don't have a problem with people like that. I'm not gonna, you know, go out of my way, because the information is there. So you take the information, process it, and move on. But yeah, that's it. The mass of the planet is time. Then we have control of that. We have control of time. We can move through time. This war is being fought through time. I also like Feynman. He has a lot of really great, interesting perspectives on time. And yeah, and that's Stargates. That's what it would look like. That's how they do, the 20 and backs. And he's explaining a lot of the technology that has already been laid out there for many decades. So, well, I think it's too soon to throw in the towel, as they say. I think curiosities are still possible, right? And it's good to be curious, I think. I don't like the word positive or negative. I like the word curious. I'm curious, or can be curious, as to what kinds of things are being tossed about. And well, as always, see you upstairs.